Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. This video will be part one of a three-part series on crochet color changing methods. In part one, we're going to be talking about the cut and tie color changing method. This is definitely my most used method and my preferred method of color changing just because of the projects that I like to work on, and I also found that it is the least common method used, so I thought this would be a perfect introduction to this series. So if you would like to learn more about the cut and tie crochet color changing method, then please keep watching. So just to give a brief description on the cut and tie method, it's pretty much exactly as it sounds. It's the process of color changing by cutting off the non-working yarn and attaching a new color by tying it on. It's definitely the most time-consuming method out of the three we'll be covering in this series because you're having to detach and reattach the yarn during every color change, so definitely keep that in mind when choosing your method of color changing. This is a great technique to use when working with multiple different colors that would be hard to carry throughout the project. So for example, if you're using tapestry crochet and you find it difficult to be carrying multiple different colors throughout the project and you find it peeking through and just having a lot of tension issues, this is definitely a great alternative to that. Like I said, it is very time consuming, but it is definitely worth it, and I think the product of the method is definitely worth the time it takes to do it, especially like I said, if you have any, tension issues or issues with the color popping through. And with that said, I'm going to go ahead and show you the back of the project just to give you an idea of the method we're talking about. This is the back of the project, so you can see that I've cut and tied all of the colors for the method, or to change the colors, so you can see how many I've done. So it is pretty time consuming, but as you go on and get better with the method, it definitely goes by a lot faster. And for me personally, I can't speak for any other crocheter who uses this method in particular, but I cannot be bothered to weave in all of the ends for every single color change, so I just cut them off into these cute little ties, and it gives a cool design on the back, and it's super fluffy and cool. So I haven't found anybody who has had a problem with it, but if you do find someone who does not want these little fuzzies in the back, then you will have to weave them in, which I know can be super duper annoying, but I promise it is worth it to have nice clean color changes throughout the project. So I think that is just about it for the description, so let's go ahead and get started in the tutorial. Okay, so to show you how to use the cut and tie method, I'm going to be working through my mini moon phase wall hanging pattern. If you'd like to follow along with me, I will have the pattern linked in the description box. I have a free version on the blog and a printable PDF available in my Etsy shop. Okay, so before we get started, I do want to explain one quick thing about the cut and tie method. Now, like I showed you with the finished product, you will have these ties on the back, so there will be a right side and a wrong side. The right side is pretty easy, pretty self-explanatory. The wrong side does have one additional step to make sure that you have a nice clean color change, so I will go over that in just a minute, but since the easy side is the right side, we'll go ahead and start with that. Alright, so to continue along with the pattern, we're going to be doing 5 in Aran, 18 in gold, and another 5 in Aran. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll work the first 4 as normal. And then once we get to the 5th stitch, like every time you color change, you are not going to complete the stitch. You'll do an incompleted single crochet, and then you're going to just snip the Aran. I like to leave about 1.5 to 2 inches just so it's not a pain to tie on. And then we'll take our next color, which is gold, and then we're just simply going to tie it on. And like I said, it is pretty time consuming, but once you use this method more and get a little bit more experience with it, it does go a lot faster, I promise. All right, so let's go ahead and do those 18 gold. Just work through those. I am so sorry if my crochet hook is squeaking. I really need to get a new one. This is definitely my most used crochet hook. It is my 5mm clover hook, so she has seen many projects and I should probably get a new one very, very soon, if not now. Okay, so we are just coming up on the end. Am I still in frame? I'm so sorry. I'm such a messy crocheter. I am all over the place. Okay, so we'll do 16, 17, and again with the 18th stitch of the gold, we are going to not complete it, so leave it as an uncompleted single crochet, snip it off at around 1.5 to 2 inches, and then we're going to reattach the Aran. All right, and then complete that 18th gold stitch, so you can see, and then we'll finish off the row with the last 5 Aran. All right, and that's pretty much it. Pretty self-explanatory. It looks like I caught some of the tail of the gold through. I usually don't trim off these little bits until the very end. Sometimes I'll do it as I go, so if I have that little space of air in there, I'll go ahead and tie off the color for this bottom moon phase, work through the big moon, tie or cut off the ends, and then I'll work through the last one and then cut off the ends. But yeah, that's pretty self-explanatory. Like I said, this is definitely the easier side because there's no extra steps. You just work through the first colors, stop at the 5th stitch as an incomplete single crochet, tie on the gold, finish that 5th Aran color, work through the 18 gold, stop at the 18th as an unfinished single crochet, tie off the gold, tie on the Aran, and then finish off the row with 5 Aran. So like I said, it's pretty time consuming, but I promise you it's totally worth it. All right, so let's go ahead and work on the wrong side. Okay, so for this side, it is worked exactly the same, nothing changes. The only difference is these ties are gonna end up on the right side of the work. So after we're finished with the row, we'll have to go back and pull through these strands. So let me go ahead and work through this row real quick and I'll be right back. Okay, so now that we're finished with the wrong side row, I'm gonna go ahead and show you the right side. So as you can see, those strands from our wrong side ended up on the right side, so we're gonna need to get those from the right side back onto the wrong side. So I'm just going to pull out my hook, and then we're gonna go to the stitch on the right hand side. So you see the tie is here, so we're gonna go to that first gold stitch right to the right, wrap it around and pull it through. Super duper easy. So we'll do the same thing on the other side, but we're gonna go to the Aran stitch on the other side of the gold. So basically you're gonna be wanting to pull that yarn through the stitch right before the color change because it's gonna be facing that direction. If you were to pull it on this side, for example, you'll have that little ball, that knot showing, and you definitely do not want that. So you're gonna pull it right through the stitch that the color change was on. All right, and there we go. That's pretty much it. Sometimes, especially when I speak to other crocheters, when they ask me how I do a seamless color change when it comes to my patterns, they find that they have some colors peeking through here around the edges, or they can see their knots through the project. My biggest piece of advice is when you go to trim off these little knots back here, make sure you're giving these ties a good tug up, and then tie them as tight as you can before you trim it. So you want to pull up and then tighten that stitch as tight as you can, just to make sure they are nice and tucked in and you don't have any knots that are poking out from the back. So I'll go ahead and do this again on the other side. Just give it a nice tug, tighten, tug, tighten, and then just go in and trim them. Like I said, I like it to do about finger length. So I'll do about 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, and just give it a snip. Do the same thing here, and then on the other side. All right, and that's it. That is all it takes to do the cut and tie color changing method. I know it looks like it's really slow, and it probably will be, like I said, when you first start using this method, but once you go through and you get more experience and you've used this method more often, it is going to get much faster, I promise. I actually find this method to be the fastest for me now, because this is the predominant method that I use, because I do a lot of wall hangings and I design a lot of wall hangings, and to make sure I get that seamless color change, like I said, I like to use this method, and for tension issues also. But yeah, that's it. Alright, thank you so much for watching part 1 of my crochet color changing series. I really hope this was helpful for you, and if it was, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you are notified when I upload part 2 of this series. If you'd like to follow me on social media and see what I'm up to and have a little behind the scenes peek at some of the patterns I have coming up, then I will leave all those links in the description box. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below, or send me a DM through any of my social media channels listed below. And I will see everyone in part 2. Bye!